What was the single most important year in British history? A year so pivotal that it completely changed the course of the nation and, in many ways, the world? It's a tough question, right? You could argue for 1066 with the Norman Conquest, or maybe 1215 with the Magna Carta. How about 1588 and the defeat of the Spanish Armada, or 1805 with the Battle of Trafalgar? All fantastic candidates. But for me, one year stands out above all the rest. It's a year of revolution, of war, of new ideas, and the birth of a global superpower. That year is 1688. Now, I know what you might be thinking. 1688? What even happened then? Well, stick with me because this year is like the ultimate political thriller, full of drama, intrigue, and consequences that echo right down to the present day. To understand why 1688 is so crucial, we need a little bit of context. The 17th century in Britain was, to put it mildly, chaotic. We had a civil war, we executed a king, we had a republic under Oliver Cromwell, and then we restored the monarchy. It was a turbulent time, defined by a massive power struggle between the monarch and parliament. Who really had the final say in how the country was run? This brings us to King James II, who came to the throne in 1685. James had a couple of big problems in the eyes of the English political establishment. Firstly, he was a devout Catholic in a fiercely Protestant country. Secondly, he believed strongly in the divine right of kings, the idea that his power came directly from God and that he wasn't accountable to Parliament. He started appointing Catholics to high office, which was against the law, and he seemed determined to roll back the Protestant Reformation in England. This made a lot of powerful people very, very nervous. They feared a return to Catholic absolutism, where the king had total power and could impose his religion on everyone. The tension reached a breaking point in June 1688 when James's wife gave birth to a son. Until then, many had hoped that James's Protestant daughter Mary would succeed him. But now, with a male heir, the prospect of a permanent Catholic dynasty ruling Britain became terrifyingly real. So what did they do? In a secret and incredibly risky move, a group of 7 influential noblemen, both Whigs and Tories, sent a letter. But this wasn't just any letter. It was an invitation to William of Orange, the ruler of the Netherlands, and, conveniently, the husband of James's daughter, Mary. The letter invited William to invade England with an army to restore English liberties and protect the Protestant faith. This was an unbelievable gamble. If it failed, they'd all be executed for treason. But William, a shrewd political operator and a lifelong enemy of the powerful Catholic King Louis XIV of France, saw his chance. He assembled a massive fleet, larger than the Spanish Armada a century earlier, and prepared to cross the English Channel. Fate played its part, too. A Protestant wind blew his fleet safely to the coast of Devon, while it held James's navy trapped in the Thames estuary. On November 5, 1688, William landed at Torbay with around 15,000 soldiers. What happened next was remarkable for how little blood was shed. This is why it's called the Glorious Revolution. It was largely bloodless, at least in England. As William marched towards London, James II's support just melted away. His commanders, including the future Duke of Marlborough, John Churchill, deserted him and joined William. His other daughter, Anne, also abandoned him. Utterly isolated and fearing the same fate as his father, Charles I, James II fled to France. The throne was empty. This is the core of why 1688 is so important. Parliament didn't just crown the next person in line. Instead, they declared that James II had, by fleeing, abdicated the throne. They then offered the crown jointly to William and Mary. But there was a catch, a massive one. Before William and Mary could become king and queen, they had to agree to a set of conditions laid out by Parliament. These conditions became the Bill of Rights of 1689, one of the most important documents in British constitutional history. The Bill of Rights fundamentally changed the relationship between the monarch and the people forever. It established that a monarch could not suspend laws, levy taxes, or maintain a standing army in peacetime without Parliament's consent. It guaranteed free elections, freedom of speech within Parliament, and banned cruel and unusual punishments. In essence, it destroyed the idea of the divine right of kings and firmly established the principle of parliamentary sovereignty. The monarch would now rule through Parliament, not over it. This was the birth of constitutional monarchy, as we know it today. But the impact of 1688 didn't stop at Britain's shores. The ideas that blossomed from the Glorious Revolution, limited government, individual rights, and the consent of the governed, were incredibly influential. They directly inspired thinkers like John Locke, whose writings on government would in turn heavily influence the American founding fathers. The American Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution are, in many ways, direct descendants of the principles established in Britain in 1688. So, in a very real sense, the Glorious Revolution helped lay the groundwork for modern Western democracy. Furthermore, the revolution had huge financial implications. With Parliament now controlling the country's finances, it created a new sense of stability. This led to the creation of the Bank of England in 1694 and the national debt. This might sound boring, but it was revolutionary. It allowed the government to borrow huge sums of money reliably to fund its ventures, particularly its military. This new financial power, often called the Financial Revolution, enabled Britain to build the most powerful navy in the world and finance wars against its rivals, especially France. It was this financial and military muscle, born out of the settlement of 1688, that allowed Britain to build a global empire over the next 2 centuries. So let's bring it all together. The year 1688 saw a change in ruler, but it was so much more than that. It was a revolution in ideas. It established parliamentary democracy and constitutional monarchy. It enshrined fundamental rights and liberties that would inspire movements for freedom across the globe. And it created the financial and political stability that launched Britain on its path to becoming a global superpower. While other years had their battles and their drama, 1688 was the year that defined the political DNA of modern Britain and sent ripples of change across the entire world. It was the year that power truly passed from the monarch to the people, and for that reason, it stands as the most important year in British history. What do you think? Do you agree? Or is there another year you believe was more pivotal? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey back in time, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more deep dives into history. See you next time.